Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. Well, it's been a while since we did one of these sit downs, hasn't it? So I thought I'd do that. I'm going to be busy later on today, packing up to go to the lake. This is work season for us. You kind of want to get all your work done before the mosquitoes show up, right? And also so you can just have fun during the summer. You know, you don't want to be chopping wood and things like that. It's nice that you get all that kind of stuff done in the spring, and then when summer rolls around, then it's just about sitting on the dock or going for boat rides or sitting around the campfire. As long as there's not a campfire ban on, there seems to be a lot of that over the last number of years. Last summer was pretty good, but previous 2 summers, you know, like from all of July and August, no campfires. So that kind of sucked. It took a lot of the fun out of going to the lake, right? As it would, you know, if you were camping or even if you have a cabin like I do out at the lake. Anyway, so let's get to what we're talking about today. So first things first, the good news. This is awesome. Midway has dropped the game Midway, Historical Board Gaming. It came out yesterday on the website. So if I will leave a link in the description box, but even if you're just looking for it and you're not watching this video, you think to go there later, you can find it in the new items. It should be the one that's on the very top, or if it's a few weeks from now, then it'll be close to the top. It's a Battle of Midway game. Anyway, it looks great. Big congratulations goes up to Mike Kelly and to Doug Friend and anybody else that might have had anything to do with that. Mike is the designer for that game. From what I understand, he didn't start out making that game, but it just kind of morphed into that. Just going by what he said on one of his videos. He doesn't have his own channel that I know of anyway. He put out a couple videos yesterday on Historical Board Gaming's channel, and the first one was showing the setup for the game, and the next one was showing how to play the game. So anyway, I encourage you to go to the Historical Board Gaming YouTube channel and check out Mike's videos on Midway. Like I said, it looks like a really good game. I did do a video on carriers myself a while back, Japanese carriers, and so you kind of got a sense of what the pieces are looking like, right? The pieces of the game are all 3D printed in the colors, like in burnt orange for the Japanese, and in the American colors. What is that called? Olive drab. So anyway, they're all 3D printed pieces, and it looks like you can buy the game 3 different ways. You can buy it with everything, like the whole thing, with all the 3D printed pieces, all the chips, the maps, the plates, all that stuff. You can buy it like that, or you can buy it with just everything but the battle pieces, because we've all got Japanese carriers and planes and American stuff, right? Or you can get it with just the map and the player aids. And so there's 3 different prices and 3 different ways to play the game. As far as being able to buy just the pieces, I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm not in that lane. That's something you have to talk to Doug about at Historical Board Gaming. He's the guy that does the sales, and I would imagine it's going to be a little while, because I think this game's going to be really popular, right? Hang on a second here. It's morning here, so I'm having my coffee. Anyway, this game's going to be popular, and 3D printing pieces, you don't get thousands of them at a time like you do when you get a run of plastic that comes in from China, right? So he's going to have to probably get the games out the door, and you know, when those sales start slowing down and the piece count builds up, then I don't know, maybe then he will consider selling just the battle pieces for that game. But they do look really nice. Like I said, you could buy the game without that and play with your own pieces, but these are beautiful looking pieces. And if you look at the cost, the difference in cost between the game with and without the battle pieces, I think it's something like $100 or whatever. but there's 143 battle pieces, and typically those pieces are from let's say $1.45 to $2.95 for each piece, right? And then when you're looking at little planes, they're probably $5.95 or $6.95 for 5 of those. So it's still a good deal if you buy the box set and you get the battle pieces with them, because you're getting 143 battle pieces for about $100, right? I think that's what it is. Anyway, looks like a great game. It's much more detailed than, say, a game of 36, because in 36, of course, you just put 2 planes on a carrier, and, and you sail it around, right? Whereas in this game, you actually have each carrier has its own battle group, and you have several planes on carriers, and you have to keep track of your fuel and all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about this except for what I've seen in the videos, but it does look really, really interesting. And even the battle boards look interesting. There's rings of defense around a carrier, and so that's simulated on these battle boards. I'll be interested to see how that works myself. But anyway, looks great. So congratulations, Mike, on getting this game to the market. I've been working on games with them for a couple of years now, and it's, you think okay, you just got to do this and that, but it's so much more detailed than what you think it is. Like, we will have a 2-day debate between 6 or 7 guys over an email or a text message or whatever chain that's going on, just over one roundel, one roundel in one territory in Iran, wondering which roundel that should be. Okay, we get it down to where it's a British roundel, but which British roundel, right? I remember a debate going on about the Burma roundel for World War I. Should that be the same as the British roundel, or should, like, every little detail is scrutinized, and so to get a game to the finish line is a lot of work, a lot more than you think it is. This company insists that things are historical. Yeah, like we do try to make them playable games as well, but not at great expense of history, unless it's an alternate history game, in which case then it's an alternate history game, and you can go in any direction with one of those. But anyway, good going, Mike. Can't wait to play your game. So that's the good news, and the potentially not so good news. The spring offensive in the summertime. Just 5 minutes ago, my buddy Panzer King left. He stopped by for a quick visit, and we had a chat. I called him. I wanted to talk to him before I made this video, and he was in the neighborhood, so he popped in. The nature of his work is that he travels around town and does stuff. I'm not going to tell you what he does, because it's none of my business to do that. Anyway, spring offensive. So it's not looking good right now for people crossing borders. I mentioned this in my last video, but it bears repeating in this video because I'm talking about the spring offensive. It doesn't look good for people traveling across borders, because we're not even supposed to be traveling from town to town within our own province right now. I know things are picking up down in most places of the United States, but there's a reason for that. Like, you're producing vaccines in your country. We're not producing vaccines in our country. We're buying vaccines, and so it takes a longer to be able to procure enough vaccines for all the people. It would have been nice if we could have got them earlier, but we didn't. And the problem is that there's the variants now. Like, the virus is mutating, and it's becoming more easily transmissible. Thankfully, I don't think at this point that it's more deadly, but it's more easily transmissible. And so sorry, I just got a message there. I've got a couple of really important things going on today, so forgive me if I'm a little distracted. Anyway, it's too bad that we couldn't have gotten vaccines before then, because that's the reason why it's spiking, and not just Canada, but in other places in the world, is because the new variants are much more virulent. They're much more easily transmissible, and it's tougher to get a handle on that. I've had my first shot already of vaccine, luckily, but like we're doing it by group. Like there's the healthcare workers, right, and people like that, and then we're on the next batch of people, which is by age. So they started at 95, and then they moved to 90, and then I'm not sure where they are right now. I got mine at the 75 year because I took my mom. My mom doesn't drive anymore or anything, right? So I took her, and while I was there, I asked them when people in my age group were getting vaccinated, and they said, "Are you her primary caregiver?" I said, "Well, I drive her places and help her out with groceries and stuff." So they said, "Oh, we'll vaccinate you then." And so I was lucky enough to get mine a few weeks earlier. I think they're right around my age right now where they're doing it. I know my son is 35, and he was able to register. He hasn't been given a notification as to when his vaccination will happen, but they're taking notifications for people in his age group. Anyway, long story short, if we're only at this point right now, it's unlikely that the borders will open. And I'm speaking about the international borders. Like it's quite possible, sorry, I gotta look at this. It's quite possible to the Alberta border would be open, for instance, and there's players there. So those guys might be able to come. Like I think we'll be able to travel around our province by then, and maybe come from Alberta and other provinces. But I really can't see international travel taking place, and certainly not international travel from anybody that hasn't been vaccinated. I would expect that from any other country if I wanted to travel there, that they would deny me entry if I hadn't been vaccinated. And it doesn't matter what you think of the vaccinations or if you think any of this is a hoax or not. The fact of the matter is that governments have a right to do that. And so if they're going to step on anybody's rights, it'll be international people. It's not going to be their own people. Or it could be both, but they're definitely going to keep the international people out as long as possible. And so I could almost guarantee you that you're not getting into Canada without a vaccination at that point. And maybe not for a long time across any international border without a vaccination, but we'll see. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Like this thing, another variant could come along that's much more deadly. Like we just don't know. I know I hear people arguing about it. Oh, they said this and they were wrong. Well, they didn't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knew then. Nobody knows now. They're just going on the best information that they have, and it's just a really good guess, and sometimes not a great guess. That's just the way it is. Like we're living in strange times right now, and the fact that it's harming our spring offensive is pretty small potatoes compared to the hardships that other people have to endure. Like last year, if you were graduating high school in 2020, that would have really sucked, wouldn't it? If you had a wedding planned and you couldn't invite people, this is pretty minor compared to some of the things that people have to cancel, not the least of which could be their employment that's at stake, depending on what industry they work in, right? So, but we're going to try to play, honestly. Like if we can bring people across borders, we're going to. If people could travel around our province, then we're going to do that. Even if only, like, our goal was to get 2 tables and like a dozen people, but even if we only get 4 or 5 people around one table, then so be it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to play that game, and I think it's July 10th, I believe, unless I'm remembering wrong. And that can happen with the health problems that I'm having now. One of the things is my memory doesn't, my short-term memory doesn't always work the way it should. But stay tuned to Panzer King's channel. He's got a great YouTube channel, as you know. Most of the people that are subscribed to his channel are also subscribed to mine. So stay tuned to his channel, and he will give you the most up-to-date information on that. And I'll give you information when I can. Now, we had toyed with the idea of playing with the version 4 victory conditions. So you understand in 36 that there are points that you get for each thing that you do at the end of the game. That's going to change for version 4. There will still be victory points, but I don't want to tell you about them because we don't want to release anything about them too soon. But it looks really interesting and really good. The points are changing. They're more relevant. There's fewer points that are going to be available. And I think you're really, really going to like the changes. One of the things about the game that seemed kind of odd was that you would play this whole game for 2 or 3 days, and then at the end you would do weird stuff at the end, to try to take that one territory, even at the cost of your whole Air Force. Your whole Air Force isn't going to give you a point, but Poland is. So you go take Poland and you lose all your planes doing it. So the way the points are structured in version 4, it should eliminate that kind of play at the end of the game for the most part. There still will be a little bit of it because you're still counting points at the end of the game, and so you want to make sure that you have those points at the end of the game. But you'll see you'll see when you see them. But anyway, we were going to do that, but I don't think that we are. It's not that we're not allowed to. We are allowed to. It's just I don't think it would be fair to the players that are coming to play version 3 with version 4 victory conditions, because some of the victory conditions are kind of related to how the game is changing in version 4. There's some pretty significant changes coming in that game. And so when you look at the victory conditions, if you're playing version 3, you might think, well, how am I going to do that? Well, if you were playing version 4, then it would make sense. And so that's basically the whole reason right there is, like people, when they're coming to events like this, they kind of consider them as being somewhat official. And so if you're going to be official, then you should play by official rules. You shouldn't change it up within like a month or 2 left. Say, oh, we're gonna do something totally different that's not in the rule book. I don't think that's fair to people. So we're going to stick with the victory conditions for version 3. But Morton would like me to play test the game, the version 4 game, and that could be ready to start play testing beyond his own group. Ready for other people to start playtesting maybe as soon as this fall. So we'll see. Like you might see a YouTube game or a game that we play and post on YouTube of us playing version 4, depending on how we do it, right? But it'll be all the version 4 rules and all of version 4 victory conditions, and you'll be able to see the evolution of the game. And understand that like these rules are not written down yet in stone. So this is playtesting, right? Like things change as you playtest. One group could playtest something and just didn't occur to one of those guys to do this one move, but then you send it out to more groups, and all of a sudden somebody tries that. Oh, geez, I guess it's not going to work now. So yeah, things do change, and that's why you do the play testing. You want to make sure that it's a fair game. But I think that it'll be pretty close to the rules because Morton's been doing this for quite a while, and so has his play group, and they understand the game very, very well. They understand version 3 really well because they were the ones that developed version 3 from version 2. Right? 1 second. Anyway, speaking of YouTube, Panzer King there also wants to play a YouTube game, and so do I. He's calling it Operation Skyhook, and so that'll be sometime after the spring offensive. We don't want to start a game and busy up our table only to have to sorry, I said that wrong. We don't want to have to take apart a game that we're playing in order to use our tables for the spring offensive. So pretty obvious, right? So it'll be sometime after that. It might not be till fall. It might be version 4. I don't know. But anyway, he's calling that Operation Skyhook, and we've already got some of the players that are going to play in that. People that have contacted us. Some of the things, though, are going to have to be clarified. Like there's been a couple of games that have been played on YouTube recently, Winter Solace and the other game that's on pause right now. And by the way, those guys are looking for another player right now. If you're interested in jumping in 1941 and playing with them, you can contact Mark the Shark on his YouTube channel. He's looking for another player. Hopefully you guys find one. Anyway, games that are going on. It is in regards to the rules. It's one of the reasons that I've resisted playing a YouTube game to this point. Is it's really difficult to play this game on YouTube. It's not the same game as Axis and Allies. In Axis and Allies, things happen at a certain time. Like I did a recent video and a lot of people disagreed with it. It doesn't matter that I was correct. It doesn't matter that I was told I was correct before. I was told I was correct afterwards by the guy who wrote the game. People just don't believe me, so I'm not even sure why I should bother answering people's questions anymore. But when it comes to declaring war, so one of the things that they were doing, I know for sure in Winter Solace, was one player would contact another and say, if you declare war on me, then I'm going to do this. So basically, before you take your turn, make sure that you do this before, like whatever it is, declaring war on somebody else or whatever, declaring war on them first. None of that is within the spirit of the rules. That's the problem with that. The spirit of the rules is what I try to explain in that declaration of war video. Let me just explain it again because people didn't believe me. Some people did, but most people just thought it was wrong, and it's not. But the spirit of the rules when it comes to declaration of war is that it's the most difficult thing in the game to do. It's the most consequential thing in the game to do, and not just in the game but in war itself. Doesn't matter if it was World War II, doesn't matter if it was a war that was fought 10,000 years ago. The declaration of war is what is the most consequential thing that happens. I mean, you look at the war in World War II, when the Nazis declared war on Russia. It all sounded like a good idea at the time, but after the Russians defeated them, and in a brutal fashion, like it was brutal on the Eastern Front there, what the Nazis did to the Russians, and then what the Russians did to the Nazis. Like the German people were running towards the Allies to surrender to them, just so they didn't get taken by the Russian soldiers, because the Russians were pissed at what the Nazis had done to them. Basically, what happened, the consequences were that Eastern Germany and indeed all of Eastern Europe was, for lack of a better way to put it, enslaved by the Soviet Union for over 2 generations, right? Like from 1945 to 1989, when the wall came down, or was it 90 or 91? Anyway, 45 years approximately. A generation is about 20 years or so, right? So for at least 2 generations that lasted, all because the Nazis declared war on Russia. So it's very consequential, and the designers of the game wanted that act to be very consequential, and so they also wanted to create dilemmas wherever they could. If you've seen any of my series with Morton there, he talks a lot about that, about dilemmas. He repeats that over and over again. I tell you, like if you're not creating dilemmas for your opponent, then you might not be playing the game right. Like the example that I gave, attacking Tokyo, you might see me looking around. I'm looking at my board here. When the British attacked Tokyo, in the example that I gave in that declaration of war video, there was two different things the Japanese could have done. They could have waited for the British to attack them and accepted the consequences of that, or they could have declared war on the British and then accepted the consequences for that. The British had done a good job there of creating a dilemma for the Japanese, and so, you know, basically, what would you like? Poke in the eye with a sharp stick, or do you want to eat a shit sandwich? You know, like, it's your choice. I'm giving you that choice. And so when it comes to declarations of war, you have to declare war against that person, and it can happen at any time, right? It can happen during your turn, during somebody else's turn, during any phase of somebody else's turn or your turn. And that was by design, because it's very consequential. And when you declare war, and who do you declare war against, it goes a long ways to determining who wins the game in the end. The first couple of games, I said this recently, the first couple of games you play, you're going to be concerned with terrain and how that affects the pieces and how the pieces move on the board. You're just basically learning how to play the game, how to add up the score, how to do all this. That's a lot to take in. But once you learn these things, that's when the real game begins, the game between the players. And this is what I'm talking about. This is where at some point you're going to need to get yourself to, is where you're playing the game against other players. You're going beyond Axis and Allies. In Axis and Allies, on the declaration of war, it's very simple, and maybe that's what you like. Maybe you just like it simple, and maybe that's a better game for you. I don't know. I'm not putting you down. Like, some people just like it that structured, right? You declare war at the beginning of your combat movement stage, except in one case where the Americans can declare war at the end of their combat movement on the third turn. But other than that, you have to declare war at the beginning of your combat movement stage. And that's it. There's no getting around that. And that's fine, but that's just too structured, you know. Like, that doesn't leave any room for all these games that we play, that we're playing above the table. Why we have 3 teams in this game, you know, how we pit ourselves against these guys and how we pit these guys against those guys. Like, all of that is the real game that's played here. And, you know, like, there's a thing on page 37, it's called clarifying ordering effects. And I think this is where people are getting stuck the most, because, like, I have it here, I have the rule book here, and it's very clear in clarifying ordering effects. And so people think that, you know, like, okay, so if you're going to declare war, then you have to do it at the beginning of your turn, or you can't just move through my stuff, and that's wrong. Clarifying ordering effects is something that you only have to do if you're at war with somebody, okay? Please believe me when I'm telling you this. You don't have to clarify your ordering effects when you're not at war with somebody. When it comes to moving your ships, moving ships and moving pieces on land are two different things. On the water, you can occupy the same zones. There's nothing to do with neutrality as far as the territory itself. Sea zones are all the same, right? They don't belong to one person or the other. They're all just sea zones, not like land zones where they could be yours, they could be neutral, they could be opposition. You know, like, that's two different things. When it comes to sea zones, clarifying ordering effects only pertains to when you're at war with somebody. So you are allowed to move through an entire fleet if you want to, get to a place where you want to be, and then once you're there, then you declare war on the guy or the nation that you're attacking. That's when you have to clarify your ordering effects. And that's the example that I gave when the British attacked Tokyo. They moved through the Japanese Navy to get to another part of the Japanese Navy where they said, okay, these ships and these planes are going to be the screening force, and these ships are going to bombard the land, and these planes and these Marines are going to assault Tokyo. That was me clarifying ordering effects. And I didn't have to do that until I was at war. Now, people don't agree with that. They don't like that. And, well, whatever, like that's the intention of the designers of the game. They made it that way. Why else would there be a Japanese surprise strike? You could never use it. Like, how could you ever possibly attack Calcutta, right? If you had to tell the guy ahead of time, I'm going to attack you, right? At the beginning of your turn. All you would have to do is put a destroyer or even just a sub. Not the sea zone just outside of Calcutta, but there's only 2 sea zones that border that one. You would just have to put up blockers there, because you can't do 2 screening forces on the same move, right? Like with the same force. You can't do a screening force and then go in and do a screening force and amphibious assault. You can only do 1 screening force on your move, on your combat move. And so whether you're attacking Calcutta or San Francisco, that just wouldn't be possible. If all you had to do was say, no, you got to clarify your orders. Oh, you're going to do that? Well, then you've declared war on me, so you can't go through 2 spaces. There would be no point in having that rule, the surprise strike. And even like back in page 11 there, it talks about combat moving through a canal, right? And there's a special rule on there that says, or it's not a special rule, an optional rule that you can play by. And this is getting around that rule, right? It says a nation cannot combat move through a canal unless they possess it or aligned with the owner. And then it gives you an example, right? So they're basically telling you what I just told you is you can play by an optional rule where you can go through a canal, or you can't go through a canal and then declare war on somebody. In other words, if you don't play with that optional rule, you can combat move through a canal. You're not at war yet, and then you can attack whoever you want on the other side of that canal if you're not playing with that rule. You don't have to clarify your orders until you're at war with somebody. And I know it doesn't say that in the rule book. That's why I make these videos. That's why I make posts online, is to help you understand and to help further clarify what the intention of the rule book is. Yeah, it doesn't say that in here. I understand that. I get that. But the intention of the rule is that you can make that move and you don't have to clarify your orders until you declare war on somebody. Okay? That's the last time I'm going to tell you that. And don't believe me if you don't want to. I don't care. If you ever come to my house, you're going to have to play by the rules. If you come to the Spring Offensive, you're going to have to play by the rules. If you play a YouTube game, or if you play anybody for that matter, and they contact HBG and want a ruling on that, we're going to give them the correct ruling, and then you're going to be shit out of luck because you didn't like that rule. The only way you can get around that is if you say, hey, I don't like that rule. What do you say we change it to make it easier on us? Make it so that the effects of we're not creating those dilemmas anymore. Like I don't have to declare war on you. You have to declare war on me if you want to attack me. Like we're trying to create those dilemmas for you, right? To make the game more interesting. If you want to stop me from attacking Tokyo, declare war on me. I couldn't attack Tokyo if you did that because I can't do 2 screening forces. So, well, the Americans are going to get 5d12. At least I'm not going to attack Tokyo. I set you up on that one. I made you give the Americans 5 dice or take the chance that Tokyo gets lost. That's much more interesting. And that's the intent of the rules. And that's why it makes a YouTube war more difficult. Like if we're playing and one guy contacts another and says, hey, if you're planning on attacking me, then I'm going to do this. Well, that's not good enough, because then you've just destroyed the intent of those rules. The declaration of war is very, very important. What would be better if you were going to play by YouTube, on YouTube, is say, okay, like we talk on what is it, WhatsApp, like players can contact each other on WhatsApp. We also phone each other and things like that, right? So whatever way you choose to communicate with each other, whether it's on WhatsApp or whatever, you've got a thread going with all the players in that game. And you say, okay, I'm going to start my video in 5 minutes. So you've got 5 minutes now. If you want to declare war on me, then declare war on me. If you don't declare war on me, then I'm going to do whatever I want. Don't tell me, okay, well, you know what? If you're going to move to Tokyo, then I'm going to declare war on you. Which is it? Are you declaring war on me, or are you not declaring war on me? Are you leaving it up to me to declare war? Because I'm not going to declare war for you. So that's why it's difficult to play by YouTube, because you're not playing by the spirit of the rules. The spirit of the rules might not sound fair. It might not be what you're used to, but that's what it is. Honest to God, that's what it is. Anyway, like I said, I don't even know if I want to answer any more questions. I've been answering questions for people for years. Like I started with a YouTube channel and I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden I was getting all these questions, and I wasn't an expert on the rules yet. So I dig and dig and dig, and I'd find the rule and then I give it to people. And sometimes people would argue, sometimes they wouldn't. But I eventually became an expert at Axis and Allies rules just for that reason, right? And then so it just became a natural for me once I started to learn how to play 36, and once I got to know the people that were designing the rules and I got to be able to contact them, then I could find answers to questions for people in my videos. And then so I started answering questions online as well at axisandallies.org and on Facebook, and people, they want to argue with you and everything. I check these things out first. If I'm not certain about something, I'll say, I think this is what the rule is. Let me check, right? I will say that. And I could be wrong. Like quite often I am. But I'm getting to the point now where I'm hardly ever wrong. Usually I guess right, because Morton and I have talked so many times now about so many rules that I've pretty much gone through just about the entire rule book with him, right, at one time or another. But it just seemed like something that I was doing for people, by explaining the rules to them, because the rule book, even the Axis and Allies rule book, it can be hard to understand, and in some cases it's things aren't stated or whatever, but I can interpret that for you. But if you're not going to believe me, then there's not much point in me doing that, is there? Like, it's not just that I'm wasting my time. I mean, I've got a bit of time on my hands right now, but I'm wasting your time and pissing you off. Like you're getting all excited and writing and searching through and everything. It's just a waste of your time. So play the game however you want. That's up to you. And you're allowed to. You're allowed to make any rules up you want. Just, like understand that if you're playing against somebody else and they don't agree to those rules, then you kind of have to play through the rules of the game. Hang on a sec. Okay. Global War 14. A lot of people have been talking about that lately. A lot of people have been asking questions, especially when is it coming out. The answer is we're going to put that game out when we're ready. And I know you want a date, and we do actually have a date in mind, but I'm not going to tell you what that date is, because there's so many things that will happen before then that, I don't want to say a date and then us not be able to make that date. You might have wondered why it's taking this long. There's reasons for that. One person was in charge of the game and too many people had their fingers in the same pie, and then another person took over, so the game changed a lot, and the structure of how we gathered information for that game changed a lot, and the playtesting went on, and that changed the rules. And we've recently taken on another group. I call them the Illinois boys because they're a group from Illinois. They've been playtesting the game for us and giving lots of good feedback. But there was one thing that was going on in that game, and it's a great game, like 36. It's a really, really great game. Lots of flavor to it, and lots of interesting politics and everything, right? But there was one thing that was bothering us about that, and we just, how can we do this without, adding spaceships or something, like doing something that shouldn't be done, right? Anyway, we were having a discussion, and the light bulb went off. Oh, hey. So back to the research, trying to find out the correct information on how to do what we were going to do. And we managed to come up with it, and now we're going to do another round of playtesting, adding that one part to the same game. We're not changing the entire game. We're changing one aspect of it. But we want to make sure that aspect fits with the rest of the game, that it's not going to throw off the balance over here or over there or wherever, right? Like, we have to make sure that it gets incorporated properly. So whatever we've written so far, we'll probably change a little bit as we play a few games of that. And it's really cool what we've done. I think you're really going to like it. It was a great way to fix the problem that we were having, and it made the game much more interesting. Like, it didn't make the game twice as good. It was an awesome game to begin with, but it did take it up, from here up to here. Like, it's a better game now, or it should be, or it will be once we work through the fine details with the playtesting. So we're really excited about that. But there's other stuff that goes into that, like the pieces. Not sure how that works, because that's not my department. That's Doug, right? He's the guy that not just runs the company, but the guy that decides on pieces and orders pieces and sells pieces and everything. So from what I understand, and I could be wrong, and he might change his mind, but from what I understand, there will be Allies pieces and Central Powers pieces. So different ships, different artillery, different everything, right? As far as creating plastic pieces. And then they'll be in the colors of their nations and everything. And these will be plastic pieces. But before that happens, and I know a lot of people are collecting pieces. My friend that just left here, he wants to start collecting pieces. And Hambo did a video recently where he's collecting pieces. There's a lot of pieces that are available 3D printed, and those are cool because, like, it's not just you can get one of two different dreadnoughts, like what I was talking about a minute ago, but you can buy, I don't know, what is it, like 5 or 6 different British dreadnoughts. So you get 1 or 2 of those each, and you've got all the dreadnoughts you need, right? And there's several different kinds of German ones, and different ones for all the nations, like the actual sculpts of real ships, right? And so if you can afford to do that, then you can do that, and you can paint them. We've also been taking piece counts as we've been playtesting. So I'll see if there's some way in a few months that we can put out the list of pieces that you need. We're not going to put out the rules, but put out a list of the pieces that you would need to play the game, so that you can start acquiring pieces on your own, getting the painting done and things like that, so that you're somewhat ready when the game comes out. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that, but I'll try, okay? So anyway, there's that, the pieces. That's one thing that has to happen. Another thing is the rules. Like, the rules I just went through the rules just over a week ago. Finished going through them. I took a week, and I combed them, went through them with a fine-tooth comb, and got pages worth of corrections that needed to be done. And I think Bob is doing that this week. He's doing the same kind of thing where he's going through all the rules, and like, you want to make sure that the rule booklet lines up with the player aids and lines up with the reference sheets, right? So there's all kinds of things to do with that. So what we're talking about doing right now is when we put the game out, when we put the player aids out and the board out, when that's released, we're not going to put a rule book out, I don't think. What we'll do is kind of like what we did in version 2, where the rule book is only online. And so you'll be able to read the rule book, and if you find anything that we should correct, there'll be an avenue for you to submit things like that. oh, hey, you spelled this word wrong, or this doesn't line up with this over here, or what do you mean by that? Because it's not that we're being callous or that we completely don't know how to write things. It's just that when you're part of the discussion that could last for a week or two or a month, on one certain aspect of the game, then you understand what's going on, right? And so you write it down and you look at that and you, oh yeah, okay, yeah. But you weren't there for those discussions. And so, if you weren't there for those discussions, then that paragraph or whatever it is might not make sense to you. And it doesn't readily register to the person writing that paragraph that it doesn't make sense to you. And so that's another good reason to put the rules out just online like that, so you can play the game, but you're not going to spend a bunch of money on a rule book only to have a whole bunch of the rules have to get changed, right? Like, we're going to get you to help you understand how to interpret the rules. So anyway, that's what we're going to try to do. But lots of surprises coming for sure. Not even going to hint at the one. I can tell you that I'm going to start playtesting this week. My map is in the mail right now. The next version of my map. You've seen the last version. Actually, that's 2 versions ago. I didn't even get the last version of the map. I told Doug I'm not feeling well enough to do that, so don't bother sending me one. But I'm feeling better now, and so I think this is probably next to last one. We're going to get this version, and then probably the next version will be the final art. So I'm excited to see what this one looks like, and it's in the mail right now. I actually paid duties on it 2 days ago. So that's global war. So well, about my health, yeah, I am feeling a lot better, but I'm not back to work, and I'm not sure when I'll be back to work, or even if I'll be back to work. The nature of my work might prevent me from going back. If I had an office job, it would be easy for me to go back. It would present a few challenges, but not the kind of challenges that it presents that I do a job that is extremely dangerous. What's wrong with me? I can't put myself in harm's way like that, nor can I put other people in harm's way, because my coworkers would be at risk if I was to go to work in the condition that I am. Like today, the way I feel right now, I'd be fine. But what happens tomorrow, right? When I get one of these episodes that I've been having. So hopefully that continues to improve. We've at least diagnosed it now, and we're working on it. There's not a cure, but there's ways to control it, or hopefully, like some people can have it controlled, and some people it just gets worse. So hoping for the best here. And summer's coming up. Looking forward to that. Heading out to the lake today, I think. It was my son that texted me a while ago. We're supposed to be heading out tonight, so we can get an early start tomorrow. We started a couple of weeks ago. There was still a bit of snow on the ground. Snow was all gone last weekend, but the little bit of ice left in the water, that ice will be gone now. And mosquitoes are still a few weeks away. So getting the chainsaw going in the morning, and we should have all our wood done this weekend. And then it's a couple of the projects on the deck and on the cabin. And then it's time to put the dock in, and then get the boat ready and take that to the lake, and then it's bikinis and beer and all the hard stuff begins at that point. And anyway, this has gone a long time, hasn't it? Yeah, getting close to an hour. So I guess I better just sign off. Again, I just want to say congratulations to Mike Kelly. Great job on Midway. Can't wait to eventually play that game. I'm not going to play it right now because I'm busy with 14, and that's going to take up my board for a while. And I got the spring offensive, and then hopefully I can get to Midway by later in the summer. We'll see, Mike. Send me a plane ticket. I'll come down and play once the border opens. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. So take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.